If you want to hear about deodorant, the deodorant industry, disrupting deodorant, if anyone has any burning questions about the difference between antiperspirant and deodorant, this is what I talk about all day long, and never thought I would. But no, I'm Allison. I am the founder and CEO of Type A Deodorant, Type A Brands. This is our deodorant over here. And yeah, I'm here today to talk about disrupting the deodorant industry. It's kind of a hybrid conversation between what it means to be disrupting a category and anything you would like to know about deodorant and how it works and why it may or may not work. I can talk about why Type A is different, but I can also just talk about whatever it is you want to know about this particular product and how it functions. So starting with the disrupting piece, because I just feel like I wanted to set the stage a little bit. The title of this talk is Disrupting the Deodorant Industry. And I think there's a pop culture perception that disrupting means like something really huge. So the term disrupting is simply like doing something different from the norm. We're not Uber. We're not, disrupting an industry, so turning it on its head and you've never seen anything like it and changing it completely. But what we are doing is trying to offer something that's different from everything else out there that hopefully is, if you've tried other natural deodorants and they're not a fit, or you've been hesitant to try, that this is something that might be successful for you. So I just wanted to start with kind of the disrupting piece. But getting into Type A and how we work and how this works, my background, let me start, is in marketing in the beauty industry. I have a marketing and business background. I have worked with massive, big brands in New York and L'Oreal, et cetera, and smaller, clean brands more recently. And it was out of this experience, having brought amazing products to market that had every tiny detail thought through, that I looked at what I had been trying in natural deodorants in my personal life, and I had tried over a dozen, and I realized that they were all kind of the same with just different marketing and packaging on the outside. They all worked on the same principle. All of the formulas were very similar, and so therefore none of them were actually going to do anything different than the prior one. And I felt like they were also very limited in a number of ways, and there was a better way to do it. So that was kind of how that, just to set the stage for the background, before I did anything, before I really worked on what became Type A deodorant, coming back to the disrupting piece, I went and I looked at the category and I started to do an analysis, and I started logging every natural deodorant or aluminum-free deodorant I could find. I stopped counting at 282. That's a lot of little, very, very tiny natural deodorants. And again, they were all very similar. And that's when I knew that there was room to disrupt. There was room for a formula that really acted differently. Obviously, a lot of things have to come together to make it successful. But that was the first piece of the equation for me. And I'm a sort of practical, follow a method, research-based, and so I wanted to know that that was the case before I went in. The big insight is all of the natural deodorants on the market are trying to be all natural. They're trying to be as natural as possible when it comes to ingredients you can eat, ingredients you can recognize, and that's great in certain categories, but when it comes to deodorant, it's really limiting in terms of what you can do to make an advanced formula. And a lot of the other beauty categories, skincare, makeup, we're seeing clean overtake natural, and there's no definition or regulation around either term. But our take on clean is that it's embracing first the safety of the ingredient and then the safety of the overall formula composition. And then it doesn't matter if the actual material ingredient is of natural origin or synthetic. We're just setting safety as the highest priority and setting the bar for safety. So a lot of other categories were doing that and having success with much more advanced formulas, and no one in deodorant was doing that. So I said, if we open up these possibilities to formulate something really advanced, can't we make something better? Can't we make something different? So that's exactly what we did. What came out of this concept is a sweat-activated technology, and it really is the idea of just mimicking a time release. And wouldn't it make sense to release the odor protectors little by little over the course of time and get longer lasting protection. We use a lot of natural ingredients, and like I said, we use a lot of synthetic ingredients. So that's what that's what our sweat activate technology is, and that's how Type A is really different. It actually wicks the sweat away from your body, and that in turn releases the odor protecting complex, and it creates this time release effect. So that is what happened and how we came to the idea of disrupting. And then the rest is really about people falling in love with the product. We've only been in market for a year and a half. I can talk at length about the difference between antiperspirant and deodorant and why you may want one or another. We take a very middle of the road approach. We're not about saying that there's a definitive correlation between aluminum and certain illness, but there's enough cause for concern. So we try to help be a source of truth and answer questions. And so with that very brief kind of overview, I actually was wondering if anybody had any questions. Yeah. Yeah. Does it work for you? Okay. No. So Arm & Hammer baking soda, and I will say, like, there's a class of natural deodorants that are baking soda based. So all of these, they have a lot of baking soda. Baking soda is a really effective odor neutralizer. Their Arm & Hammer is not going and qualifying every ingredient for safety. So that would be one piece just on the safety side in terms of like the highest bar for a clean formula. But in terms of how it works, baking soda, if you put a lot of baking soda on your skin, it will kind of stay there for a while. So it'll give you longer lasting odor protection. For a lot of, and that's the way it works. And so what we're doing, we use baking soda. We use a lot less than most of the brands out there. And we release it, like I said, little by little over time. So it's using less. So for a lot of people who have sensitivity to baking soda, they can use Type A, whereas they couldn't use some of the other baking soda-based formulas and get the same or longer protection. So that's the formula difference between the two. But I would say there's sort of a safety clean piece of it and then a functional piece of it. Yes. Yeah. Deodorant or antiperspirant? Yeah. Yeah, they're very heavy with fragrance. Yeah. Send her a care package. It's so hard. Yeah. Well, and I will say Arm & Hammer ironically doesn't have the highest concentration of baking soda. Some of the other baking soda based sticks are more aggressive, but I wouldn't always recommend them because you don't know if you're going to have an irritation. It's tough because this is a product that like you want it to work and then you want to forget that you're wearing it. So it's something we rely on. Like hyperhidrosis. Yeah. So we have had people who have tried and used Type A. I think that's more of a personal preference because that's a different level of sweating. But we did a clinical test recently where we had it was non-hyperhidrosis was one of the qualifiers, but we still found that the range of how much people sweat is just so personal. So there was a group of heavy sweaters that sweated a lot, but maybe weren't clinically defined, and the efficacy was the same. So it works just as well. But then it comes down to so many factors that come together in what you like to use, as well as what works for you. Yeah. I think the hardest thing is when you're switching from an antiperspirant. And have you guys heard about the detox or the transition? No. Okay. So there's a lot of natural deodorant brands out there that talk about when you switch to our product, don't worry, it takes 4 weeks, but after 4 weeks, it's going to work. And there's some truth in that, and there's not truth. And I think the part that bothers me is it's not about the product. It's about you as a person. When you've been plugging your sweat ducts with aluminum-based salts and you're not used to sweating, your body needs to recalibrate. Detox is a bit of a... it's not the most accurate term because it's not like you're pouring toxins out of your body for 4 weeks, but your body's really getting used to like output. How much sweat do I need to put out? I was used to not being able to do that at all. So just the function needs to come back into like balance. And in that time, your body's going to kind of go through a transition. Some people don't notice it. Some people, it takes a couple of weeks. What we found when we survey people that tried natural antiperspirant and then switched to type A, after a 3-week period, and we come back and say, what was the experience? About half said, if there was something going on I didn't notice. About half said, oh yeah, I was sweatier, or my sweat just smelled different. And that's also, there's a lot of hormones and a lot of things that are excreted in your sweat under your arms. And sorry, not to get graphic. And then it smells different. At the end, though, everybody was like, I feel like I sweat less now. Now, that might be because they're actually in balance and technically sweating less. It's a perception piece. I can't say you're going to sweat less if you get off of aluminum. There's no real comparison. You weren't sweating before. But the perception is I'm not as sweaty, and I can put it on once in the beginning of the day, and I can stay protected. So that's as much as I can share from our research. But there is a piece around the transition, which I think different brands position it differently, but it's an individual thing, but it's also a real thing. And I think it's a lot about expectations. If you know going in, you need to kind of stick with it, potentially, then I think you're starting from a different place mentally. And you know, there's also a piece with fragrance too. So until recently, we've been mostly online, and we were with Credo Beauty, Goop, Folane, and the Grove Collaborative up until this couple weeks ago, and now we've just launched at Target. So we're in Target as of next week. We'll be rolling out in Target. All right, extra feather in that. No, it's hard because it's personal, so there's no real way to convince. And yeah, say I found something and take a look at it. I think that's a good plan. That's a good plan. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. So when we launched, we actually launched with just 1 scent. And then in 2019, we added 4 more. Not all of them are out. So we have 5 scents and then unscented. And this year we're adding kind of an extra strength preview. It's coming out in March. And then we're adding a sensitive, a baking soda free. For most people, we get we get people that come from kind of every place. I've tried natural deodorants and they don't work. I've tried and I got a rash. I've been on antiperspirant my whole life. We get kind of the range. But for people who are coming to us from another baking soda-based antiperspirant, I would say the majority are like, I can use type A when I couldn't use the whatever prior. But there are still people who have sensitivity, and there are people who just don't want it. And that's why we've created our sensitive, and it's coming out in June. We're in almost all Targets starting next week. But Target takes like 3 weeks to set. So if you go into Target, I would give it a couple of weeks. But thank you. Yeah, it's been really exciting. At the end of the day, if we have something that's not a trade-off from what you're currently using for a lot of people, we want to be there when you're thinking about making a switch. And so Target was just like the perfect first national retail partner in a big way. So we're really excited. We are, yeah. Yeah. So we'll get you. We have baking soda, zinc, arrowroot, tapioca, cornstarch, silver chloride, and triethyl citrate. And there's one other ingredient I'm blanking on. But it's a combination. It's really about, the whole story is about, the composition of the formula. The sweat-activated piece, it's not encapsulated. It's not one single ingredient. The formula itself has this really intricate structure and balance that allows it to be attracted to moisture, absorb it, and then release the the actives. And then the actives, it's a combination. And so we played with balance to find that right combination. It's absorbing. Yes. Yes, exactly. There's no plugging of the sweat ducts. It's just absorbing it to keep you feeling drier. It's not going to be the same as we have people that are like, this is the same as my antiperspirant. I'm like, that's amazing, but it's not going to be for everybody. So some people, it keeps you just as dry. But we've done this clinical that we just did, which was really interesting. We know that our formula absorbs moisture, and we know it has a wicking effect. And we were able to now validate that and prove that through instrumental tests on a significant sample size, not perception of I feel drier, but actually measurement of moisture decreasing, which was pretty cool. And not decreasing in your body, but once it leaves your body. No, it's a good question. No. You won't notice it's there. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. It's so one of the given my background too, and I've worked for plenty of companies where we make really big claims, and so I kind of get very gun shy and try to basically do the opposite. I don't want to go out there and say this is going to last for 48 hours, and because it's not going to last for 48 hours for every person. And also those claims are based on usually ingredient tests in a lab that say that ingredient interacts with whatever agent and therefore diminishes it, and it lasts for in a petri dish. And so in real life, that's there are brands out there that largely don't last very long but make these really big claims, and that's how they do that. So I won't say 24 hours, but I will say the vast majority of our customers, and when we survey them, say it lasts all day. There's also no legal definition of what all day means. For us, it means morning to night. And so we know that you put it on in the morning, and by night, whatever that is for you, the vast majority of our customers say that they're still protected. And that's the most I can offer. Yeah, no. Thank you for the questions. Yeah, as soon as I'm done, I'll hop on over and get you guys. But you can smell those are the 3 scents that are in Target, and the fragrance free are what's out right now. So you can, there's a fragrance free version. No. Yep. So all of our fragrances are certified to be natural or naturally derived, and we put every fragrance ingredient on the back of the package. We just want to be, if we're saying we're clean and setting this high bar for safety, we want to be transparent about it. But we developed fragrance free so that that I wanted to know first and foremost that the formula was working in the way I had expected it to. It was doing what it was supposed to do. And then majority of people like a fragrance experience. I like a fragrance. It's nice when you put it on. It's just nice, adds to the enjoyment. So we worked on some scents. Yeah. So the most popular is the floral. It's called the Dreamer. It's a white floral linen. It's a really soft, subtle floral. For a lot of people who don't like florals, they tend to love it. But it is really kind of a very close race where every so often one of the others kind of comes up in the lead. So the Visionary, which was our hero scent, her fave, it's a herbal citrus. It's kind of got a leafy green. It's the chartreuse one. That was what we launched with. Yeah. And then the other that's out there is the Achiever. It's an ocean mint, and it's just really refreshing. And actually, guys love the Visionary, but they really love the Achiever. That's been their fan favorite. We're all achievers. We're all overachievers. And even if you're not, don't you want your deodorant to be an overachiever? That is literally how we named it. Cool. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your questions.